I was at my uncle's inauguration. I was in Washington that day. I was a 6-year-old boy, and I was sitting on the stands behind him in front of him during his inauguration. And he understood that. And 2 months later, the military and intelligence came to him and said, "We got to invade Cuba." And he was like, "I'm not going to Cuba, and I'm not going to let the military." And they said, "Well, we got all these Cubans trained, and they're going to go attack Castro." And he said, "Well, we can't. The U.S. government can't be doing that. We can't be attacking. I don't like what Castro's doing down there, but it's not the United States' job to dictate what kind of governments other countries have." And they said, "Well, as soon as they land, there's going to be a big revolution. Everybody's going to rise up, and they're going to overthrow Castro." And he said, "Well, you can't use the U.S. military." And they ended up bringing those guys over with United Fruit boats. And in the middle of it, in the night, they came to him and said, "They're getting wiped out on the beach, and you need to send in the military and invade." And he said, "We're not going to do it." And he stepped out of that meeting, and he realized they had been lying to him and trying to trick him. And he said, "I want to take the CIA and shatter it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds." And then, for the next 1,000 days of his presidency, he was at war with his military and intelligence apparatus. They tried to get him to go into Laos. He said no. They tried to get him to go into Vietnam with combat troops. They said that we need 250,000 combat troops. He refused. Everybody around him wanted him to go into Vietnam. He sent 16,000 military advisors. That's fewer people than he sent to get James Meredith into Ole Miss in Jackson, Mississippi, to get one black man into school. He sent fewer in Vietnam. They weren't allowed to fight. Many of them did. They violated the rules of engagement. In October of 1963, he heard that some of his Green Berets had been killed over there. And he said, "I want a total casualty list from Vietnam." And his aide came to him and said, 75 Americans have died. He said, "That's too many." And he signed that day a national security order ordering all troops out of Vietnam, U.S. troops. The first 1,000 over the next month, and then the rest by the beginning of 1965.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
My uncle, John Kennedy, did that. He refused to go to war. So he was surrounded by military-industrial complex, and he learned very early and an intelligence apparatus. And then a month later, he was killed. So, but what his view is that he believed that the view of Americans abroad should not be, a soldier with a gun.